We asked NRCS Soil and Plant Science Division, or SPSD, employees to tell us in their own words about what brought them to the division and what it's like to work here, to help paint a picture for others who are thinking about a career in soil and plant science. Let's hear from this diverse group of employees who are at different points in their careers.
I started working for the NRCS after I graduated from the University of Arizona with my master's degree. It wasn't immediately obvious on where I was going to be working, and I, immediately started, trying to figure out where my place was, and that's where I was really going through every place that I could. And I came across the NRCS, and I read more and more into some of the other things like soil conservationists and soil scientists, and I applied to the soil conservationist at the time because there was no soil scientist position. And I got that job, and I immediately started working, as soon as we could get all the onboarding done. After that, they came about with more positions for soil scientists, and it's a gambit we play. I applied for that, got the position, and in no less than from 7 months of putting in my application for the soil scientist, I was doing field work in Montana and Idaho.
So I worked in the Fort Collins MLRA Soil Survey office entering PEDON data when I was a student at Colorado State University. And I already knew that I wanted to work in soils, but I got to go out in the field with the soil scientists in that office a few times, and that really piqued my interest in pursuing soil survey as a profession.
With my interest in soils, I've known about NRCS since I started farming at my undergraduate college's student organic farm in 2008. I was connected to SPSD specifically after I worked with the Kellogg Soil Survey Laboratory research staff to complete a dynamic soil properties for soil health project as part of my graduate work at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities.
Well, for me, that's just kind of a funny story because it was spring 2000. I was doing my master's degree, and my chairman, his name was Dr. Jose Villarrubia Cruz, asked me if I could receive his silviculture class. Okay, I was receiving the silviculture class from the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez campus, at my farm located in the central portion of the island. The town is Jayuya. Every semester that he used to give that class, every other month he will go out and camp with his students and expose them on different type of forest and wooded areas that are kind of be undisturbed in the island, and he wanted it to go to my farm. So he went over there and I was the guide. My job over there was just to introduce the student community to what type of farming we do, what kind of natural habitats we still have, what changes habitat we have done, and what kind of crops we got, and what was the relationship of all that practices with the soil. And in that group, there was the NRCS survey leader of the island, Mr. Jorge Lugos. He was taking the class as he was doing the master at the same time I was completing my master. And he was kind of a little bit captured, or was a little bit impressed of my ability of creating relationships in between the ecology, crops, and the soil at my farm. And he was the one who told me that you could be a good soil scientist. And then from that point forward, I started looking for positions all over the place in the United States until I finally got my position here in Florida. The person who interviewed me and recruited me was a state soil scientist at the time, Mr. Warren Henderson. And that's how I became a soil scientist.
First and foremost, I really liked the idea of being a soil scientist by trade. I mean, what a cool job title, a unique job title that is. But I was also really excited about the idea of learning new things every day, spending my time making sense of complex natural systems, and spending the summers outdoors. All of that just sounded so wonderful to me.
Well, what captured my attention, imagination about working with USDA NRCS Soil and Plant Division was the way that Mr. Lugos described his position, how dynamic that position was, and the ability that we could develop to project and design the soil surveys or the soils inventory, not only in the Caribbean area or U.S. territories, throughout the entire nation. And that for me was a revelation, because it was able to combine the ability or my artistic imagination in this soil survey product in a way that we can eloquate a message to the user out there in a digital world. And that's what just got me engaged.
The work completed by the NRCS with the private landowners was awe-inspiring to me as a college student. As I worked more with the landowners, developing conservation plans, completing range inventory, and building management plans, my passion for the science of rangelands and the interconnectedness of human interactions and the ecosystem responses was exciting to me. So the ability to share what I had seen as a rancher growing up and the knowledge gained through my experiences has kept my bond with the NRCS, and specifically with the Soil and Plant Sciences Division.
So ever since reading The Keys to Soil Taxonomy, which is a book about classifying soils, I've always wanted to work with NRCS. Starting out on the conservation side in California, I had the chance to truly help put conservation on the ground, which was an absolute dream. I got to learn about practice standards and whatnot. However, I wanted to give soil survey a shot, as that was my background. And I loved how the Keys and the soil surveys organize all the information we have about soils. The way the information was put together really resonated with how my brain works. And with the encouragement from great mentors, I became the soil scientist in Tupelo, Mississippi.
So before I worked for NRCS, I actually worked for the Forest Service as a soil scientist for a couple of years. And it became clear to me while doing that just how important it is to have quality data readily available. So landowners and land managers have to make some very complicated choices, and having good data allows them to make more informed decisions on the ground. So it really excites me to be working behind the scenes, providing that service for future generations of land managers.
A day in the life of a soil scientist with the Soil and Plant Science Division is pretty variable. The biggest thing is, we go from office work to field work. So you can go from doing mapping in ARC Pro and working in NRCS to doing intense field work. All of my field work has been on the extensive tier where it's doing very large areas. You are working outside all day, and you're doing a lot of hiking, you're doing a lot of trekking across, a lot of land, and plan out accordingly, but be able to adjust on the fly, because suddenly, a snowstorm can happen, intense rain can happen. I live in Arizona, so we have monsoons to think about. When I was in Idaho and Montana, we had fire season. Fire season is also a thing here. Another large part of our job is to educate and to conduct outreach for the public. This can come in the forms of attending meetings and just being a resource for people to come and ask questions for, or facilitating meetings and gatherings for partners, the public, local stakeholders, just to come and to ask questions, but also to give them the necessary information they need to know about a particular thing that is going on at that time, or to just have, that line of communication open that we can have, conversation back and forth. So if they have something that comes up, they can reach out to us. If we have something that we would like to do, we can reach out to them, and we can work both ways. It goes back and forth. And a part of that is to be able to go and to talk and teach at schools and other community-based events. That is really important, being able to talk to young people, get them interested in the job and what it is that we do and what resources we can provide. A lot of people love gardening. And that's a big point, is that we can be a resource for that and talk to them about, just how soil functions and what's going on, get people initiated with the concept of what soil is. And at the end of the day, between doing field work, between doing office work and doing outreach, the main effort of our job, and as me as a human being, is to expand the knowledge and understanding of soils for everyone.
Office days usually involve updating soil map units by looking at where they are mapped and then their data that we have in our database. Field days often involve investigating map units that need to be updated, or we're just collecting additional soil data. We often drive to sites and use a soil probe on the back of our truck, but we have inaccessible areas that we will use a UTV or hike to with a shovel. Special projects and technical assistance requests are also very common. Some examples of those that we deal with are mapping reclaimed coal mines, assisting with soil conferences, sampling soils for weather stations, teaching kids at field days, or just assisting other offices with their projects.
Okay, I develop, maintain, and manage the soil database of half of the state of Florida. These not only include terrestrial land, it also includes the eastern, western, and southern portion coastal shorelines of the state, which is known as a coastal soil survey mapping. My daily day is dynamic. One day I could be diving in digital soil survey mapping using any kind of machine learning software. Or another day I could be just in the field collecting data. Or another day I could be discussing about a project with a group of professional scientists looking for answers and trying to improve what I do. There's always change, and we have to be ready for that.
Not only do I get to hike around and explore, but I get to dig holes, but I get to explore this really magnificent puzzle that is the land, and to really learn and explore its history and how it has transformed over time. It's a lot like geology when we look at the deep history of Earth. Soils tell their own story, and they can tell you so much about the land. And it's that connection that you build with the land. It's one of a kind, and it can tell you about so much that has gone on in that place before humans ever were there. And that's one of the most fascinating things. I've looked at soils that are 800 years old. I've looked at soils that are 5 million years old. And they each tell you something so intricate about the past, about the climate, about the landscape, about the habitat that was there. It tells you a lot about what is going on.
The best part of my job is the connection to the land. Knowing that the goal is to be on the ground, gaining data that is scientific and accurate, and then analyzing that data to produce a document that can guide individuals in any land management task is what keeps this job the best. Going places on the landscape that few get to go and digging in to really see what resources each location offers is awesome.
Hands down, my favorite part of my job is education and outreach. I love the nitty-gritty science and observation, don't get me wrong, but being able to display and talk about soil in such a way that eyes widen, audible gasps are heard, or as happened once at a local Envirothon, students tell me that their new dream is to be a soil scientist. That is undoubtedly the best part of my job.
I love being able to travel and explore different parts of the world. Getting able to work outside and to learn about something new every day is amazing. I also love supervising and working with my staff. They are excellent. Being able to pass on the information I have gathered in my career and seeing them succeed in their goals is super rewarding.
Soil survey has a lengthy, strong history in collecting static soil properties and describing soils. That in and of itself is exciting to be a part of. But the recent efforts towards investigating dynamic soil properties in systematic, structured, and interconnected ways is relatively new. That is, recognizing the many pioneers in soil quality and soil health over the last few decades. DSPs are a critical link between understanding the connections between land management, disturbance, and soil function. In an era of climate change, understanding these connections will be critical to decision-making towards a more resilient future. I've always seen soil as a source of community wealth. By protecting and enhancing our soils within the context of the ecosystems they are designed to support, we can leave our landscapes and our neighbors better off than we found them.
One of my favorite aspects about soil is our inability to fully comprehend it. It really is one of nature's great mysteries. To study it, we most often have to disturb it. So much of its properties and functions, although well understood, are not quite fully understood, being extrapolated from models, principles, and inferences derived from exposed ex situ material. And so soil science will always be among those noble professions which walk the thin line between art and science, leaving room on either side for both the individual scientist's interpretation of what the soil and landscapes have told them, as well as the hard data derived from intensive observation and study. We are constantly building upon the soil scientists of the past, tirelessly working to provide the most high-quality product to any and every American who seeks knowledge about the soil resource. Slowly, the soil reveals more of itself to us, one hole at a time. I can think of no other resource with such a direct impact on all of our lives.
It feels great that the information I create will be there influencing decisions long after I'm gone. And that is why I emphasize documentation so much to my staff and to everyone I work with, so the future can understand our thought process when we are making these soil surveys.
The NRCS is our family. We can love to work and do what we do and enjoy the individuals we work with day in and day out. Just like a family setting the support and guidance to grow in the skills we need and to strengthen the skills we have, or a passion or talent is 100-fold. I have been blessed to be in office environments that have supported me in my growth and in my career development, opening doors to tasks that I didn't know I loved to do until I was afforded the opportunity to try them. We can shape our positions to be what we would like them to be while completing the tasks at hand.
So I think the qualities you need to do this job pretty well are a passion for what you do, some open-mindedness, desire to learn, long and short-term project management skills, and of course, a willingness to get dirty. We're soil scientists, it's like what we like to do. GIS and computer skills are also a pretty big plus. My favorite opportunity was my detail to Alaska to assist with initial mapping. Initial mapping is when we go out to the ground for the first time to see where the soils are. Alaska is so rural and large that there are many areas that we haven't been to and it still needs to get mapped. Some areas we actually need to access by helicopter because they're so hard to get to. Those days there were long, but really satisfying, being in the wilderness, digging holes and looking at the soil. There's nothing quite like hand digging through frozen soil that is also rapidly filling with nearly frozen water.
I've taken leadership roles in generating new SPSD policy, developing strategies and rationale for hiring new staff, analyzing complex data, and building a community of practice. I even got to present before Secretary Vilsack and Chief Cosby. I've gained a lot of confidence from the support I've received in pursuing these challenging projects.
I love this job because even my supervisor, with his 35 plus years of experience, looks at the occasional soil pit and says, "Huh? You will not master this job in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or even 50 years. You'll become very good, undoubtedly. Our experienced soil scientists are second to none. But the soil will always be able to stump you, and you have to embrace that for what it is, a never-ending training in humility and a whetstone to keep your curiosity sharp. I've spent time with soils across the entire Northeast, from Lake Champlain to the White Mountains to my home in the Allegheny Plateau. I've met dozens of wonderful people within the agency who continue to inspire me and open new doors for future opportunities. Every day at this job is an opportunity to overcome a new challenge, and that's the beauty of it."
So I feel like it's easy to work in silos in soil survey and to feel alone, especially in remote and small offices. So getting over my fear to talking to others that we're not in the same buildings as me, helped me learn more about the agency and for me to grow personally and career-wise. I also became the mentoring coordinator for SPSD for that reason, so I can help others break down walls between offices as well. So as the mentoring coordinator, I get to help with employee development and to get new staff to create new connections with other folks in the agency. There's a gold mine of knowledge out there, and making sure that information is shared and passed on is very important to me. So if anyone is listening out there, please consider being a mentor and signing up for the mentoring program.
Soil science is a special path to pursue in life. How many people get the opportunity to read the earth like a book? She's been telling us her story for millennia to those of us who are patient enough to learn her language. The only greater joy than communicating with the earth is sharing it with others. Come join us.